You're listening to Market the Brew, a leading resource for promoting and marketing craft beer. Join in as we share with you, straight from the source, tools and strategies craft brewers from around the country are using right now to achieve significant success. The Taproom is a lot like their hives. From the outside, it looks pretty laid back, but when you look in the inside, there's a buzz of activity. Many breweries can talk of community and buying local, but this brewery is different in many ways. There are a few that can say they have two thriving communities they serve. At this brewery, they serve the one they live and work in, and the one that produces the honey they use to make their session meads. What started out 4 years ago with 10,000 honeybees has grown each year with the care and love for their bee community. Over the winter of 2021-22, they had a 92% survival rate of their bee community. This is very impressive when you learn the industry average is only 40 to 50%. It is that love and care you see not only in their relationship with each other, but with their family, their staff, their customers, and their community as a whole. You can see it in the tap room that has no TV, no Wi-Fi, and because of the building structure, no cell service. In this community, similar to the bee community, you engage with those around you. Our guests are not from Wisconsin. One is from the East Coast, the other from the West Coast. They met while in college, and the rest, as they say, is history. One is a veterinarian and the other an engineer. They learned of the community that would become their home in the days before opening. As they stressed, trying to get things done in time to open, people from the community would stop by and ask, "Hey, when are you opening?" Then, to the surprise of our guests, they would ask, "Well, do you need any help?" Each with a different skill or trade experience would pitch in to lend a hand. These people would not only become their customers, but their friends. Now, I could keep buzzing about this place, but let's listen in as Danielle and Travis talk bees and brewing with Ayla and Tim Guild of the Hive Taproom in East Troy, Wisconsin. But before we start, a quick reminder that the Market the Brew podcast is available at marketthebrew.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio Podcasts, and other popular podcast sites. Video of these episodes will be available on the Promote the Brew YouTube channel for you to watch or listen in. We hope that you will join us and share these episodes with your family and friends. Now, find a comfortable place to sit, grab a glass of your favorite beer, kick back and relax and listen in as Danielle and Travis chat with Ayla and Tim Guild, owners of the Hive Taproom in East Troy, Wisconsin, as they share information about themselves, the meadery, and their communities, East Troy and the bees. Cheers.
All right. So I'll start by asking you guys, who are you?
Who are we, Ayla? Who are we?
Well, my name's Ayla Guild. This is my husband and
Tim, yes.
business partner, Tim Guild. And yeah, we're the Hive Taproom. So we are a cold dry carbonated session meadery in East Troy, Wisconsin.
And we first heard about you guys at one of the beer fests, and we sampled your mead, became fascinated by the bees, and we reached out, and luckily we're here today to talk to you about your hives and your mead.
And thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
So how long have you guys been in business, and what got you into the mead business?
Well, we were very happy and lucky to celebrate 4 years just last month.
Nice.
And I don't know how you get into these things. It's always probably interesting and complicated, right? Like the web of career paths and everything that kind of turned to where you are now. But yeah, Ayla was a large animal vet in her previous life, and I was a mechanical engineer. And we both enjoy the experience and going places, and always, we've noticed together, like picking apart different things. What we like about restaurants and bars, what works, what doesn't, and just saw that we did that naturally. It was inevitable to create a space to provide an experience.
Yeah,
But
we've been training for this for years. We didn't even
our
realize.
whole life, yeah.
We'd go to breweries all the time. Be like, oh, let's get the flight and let's try what's new. And then when we discovered that I'm celiac, it was really sad because we'd go to breweries and I couldn't drink most anything that was there.
Yeah.
And so, with being gluten intolerant, it was really tough.
I'll say 10 or 15 years ago, there's a lot fewer options. I mean, seltzers
Yeah.
are relatively
Right,
new, and
yeah.
having a
It's like the big
cider on or
boom.
something. Yeah, right. So, in this, I mean, one of the big drivers. I mean, going deep into it, I guess, and I'll try to be quick. But since I was like 18, I was journaling about what I wanted my life to be, and kind of manifesting what that would look like. And obviously, this was way before Ayla and I had met, but I wanted to have a business with my wife, significant other that we could do together that would be fun and interesting. And noticing Ayla as a large animal vet, she was always exhausted. What do I have to prep for tomorrow? What do I have to still do tonight? She's doing billing when she gets home. We have a little kid. It's like, man, this is not. I don't think this is the way it's supposed to work for us, at least. And and then to have a beverage, you want to relax at the end of the day, and you have that that one drink to kind of ideally make you present and stop thinking about work. And a few sips of wine or half a beer, she'd be sleeping.
Well,
So-
beer, I'd be super grumpy also.
You'd be grumpy and sleeping. You'd be grumpy then sleeping.
Yeah, correct.
So, and that was like around the time that you knew that you were sensitive to gluten, but you didn't know that you were as sensitive as
extent.
you thought that you
Yeah.
that you were. So it's like, this is kind of interesting. Like, it'd be nice that Ayla would have something that she
Yeah.
can drink and just
Right.
be present, right? And then I stumbled. I think it was just me that went out the first time to California. I've family out in Santa Barbara, out visiting for the holidays, and one of my cousins took me to this place called the Apiary. And it was a cidery, meadery near Santa Barbara. It's whitewashed walls and sundresses and full California experience. You're on the beach, blah blah blah. Fun, works there. Don't think it really works so well here. But they were doing 8.5% ABV, champagne level carbonation, herbs and spices, and we liked that general idea. It's like, we can do something different that we would like better, that would work better in Wisconsin. And that was around the same time we kind of got to know East Troy through the school system, actually, believe it or not. Yeah, just families and school, right? So, we brought that back. I didn't have to work too hard to convince Ayla that it was a good idea. I'm like, when you get into vet medicine, like Ayla knows me better than I know myself, and I think I have a few things I know about her better than she knows herself, just from watching and listening. And
We celebrate our 11th wedding anniversary,
Aw.
so we've been together a while.
So you know each other a little bit.
I feel like we do. It's working. So you want to be a vet to make the world a better place. Vets don't get into it to make a bunch of money, right? So I remember pitching this question to Ayla when I got back, and I was like, I'm here to win. Like, this is it. This is what we need to do. Like, how to convince Ayla. So it's like, all right, so you can get a horse to do another race, or you can help our whole food supply chain. Which one makes a bigger difference to you? And it was kind of a good selling point. I was proud of that one. But it's like you don't want to be on call. You want your own livestock. You want to be outside. You want to make a difference. I'm like, the bees.
Well,
Like,
and
you
I
provide
had,
that.
Being a bit of a bleeding heart, in 2008 when colony collapse hit and everyone learned about honeybees and how they were struggling, I was inspired. I was like, oh man, I want to learn about them so I can help them, right? And so, but I hadn't, with vet school and everything else, I never had time to do that. And so finally he was like, yeah, you could actually do the bees, like you could work with the bees. And I was like, ooh.
Either I didn't know this, or I wasn't listening. I feel like this is the first time I've heard this.
Oh, then you weren't listening.
All right. Well, we've been married for 11 years.
That happens sometimes.
But yeah. So I mean, and more recently, getting to know more about the water conservation involved. We have to grow the wheat and wastewater involved, and to make the product, like, we benefit on that. The 1% for the planet that we're playing along with more recently.
We just joined.
And there's just so many wins. But yeah, it's
It's a very long answer to your question.
No, that was perfect.
Literally.
Because there's a lot of people who do have those allergies, or they do have certain preferences for what they're drinking, and you have that to offer here. And there aren't many places that offer mead either. So just the environmental benefits, the health benefits, it's nice to have that close to us here in Milwaukee. because it's not very common. I mean, we don't have many bees in Milwaukee that are productive. They just kind of sting us.
Well, there's a great beekeeping club, the Milwaukee Waukesha Beekeeping Club, and so there are more and more people keeping hives in their backyard. And like you experienced that with
Yeah.
the bees, you know, honeybees really aren't out there to sting you. I mean, they will sting in defense of their hive, but they're not like some of the other bees that we come into contact with that can be jerks. You know,
Yeah.
the honeybees are actually really quite docile.
Well, and they're pretty smart. It's a self-preservation. I mean, you sting, you die. It's not really what they want to do.
Right. Correct.
But
And you had like the best question. You were telling us how the kids come out for field trips, and you started the question with, "How do you feel about bees?" And sometimes people are a little scared, including me. And then after the experience, I started thinking, "Oh, they're really sweet, and they sound so nice, and their honey is great," and I just have a different experience now. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so glad.
whenever the stars align and I get to go out with Ayla to do some beekeeping stuff, which doesn't happen that often. I wish it happened more frequently, but it's a religious experience. It's beautiful. It's just
Yeah.
amazing to see that whole thing in play and just be closer to nature and understand that.
So talking about the brewery, how big is this brewery?
Big.
Like square foot wise, I guess.
Square foot wise, so the building is about 4,300 square feet, give
Okay.
or take. I think it's somewhere in that range. And we're on about 8 to 9 acres. We didn't look at the numbers more recently, but plenty of room to expand,
Right.
and so we're excited about those
And
opportunities.
how many barrels do you produce roughly? Would you
We
say?
Yeah, last year I think we were just shy of 200, something in
Nice.
that ballpark. So very on the nano scale.
Right. Yeah.
But we talked briefly, I think, in passing on the, honey is not as scalable as
Mhm.
wheat. So we, have no interest to be the next massive New Glarus or something in the
Right.
state. Like this is our little baby for a different experience.
Yeah, it's nice. And then distribution-wise, everything is just sold here, or do you have like your product in stores or anything like that?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we're working on scaling that. The important piece for us, and there's different ways to go about it. I've seen many successful business models of no brick and mortar, but to have that opportunity to create that revenue quickly, and really for our product to provide that exposure, because we are a unique. I mean, mead is one of the oldest beverages, but not the way that we do it. So we're don't claim to be the only or the first to do a cold dry carbonated style, but we do have a unique style for the space. And last time we really looked, there's very few places in the state that did this style. I mean, I would say one or two.
I think there's 5 or 6 in Michigan, but not really in Wisconsin.
Michigan has a couple, yeah, and one of the other ones I really like is Michigan. But there's nothing that I'm aware of in Illinois or Minnesota, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And the last time we looked, same thing. I mean, cideries, but distribution, we have a few liquor stores and a few restaurants or bars that we are at as well.
Nice.
But we're slow growth in that. We made it through COVID. We're happy to not only make it but have growth through that process. And then I was like, all right, we let's one thing down, take a few deep breaths, and what are we doing next? So
Yeah. Nice.
So can you explain a little bit the difference between mead and beer? Because I feel like there's some commonalities, but there are also some differences.
you want me to take this one, or you want to go for it?
Why don't I start and then you
Sure.
can add on?
By all means.
So we brew. You guys can hear things bubbling here, things fermenting. We end up brewing the mead like a beer, and we use a lot of hops in our process. So it gives you some of the similar flavors, but we don't have the hop side. And so what's really nice is that all of the benefits of raw local honey we keep in the product because we never heat it above 95 degrees, which is hive temperature. So that passes into the product. And
Okay.
so some of I'm not going to make any health claims, but some people report feeling better, their allergies being better after taking raw honey. And so that is something that is a benefit. It's amazing when, I don't want to take too deep of a dive, but you get into the idiosyncrasies of what's in the actual raw local honey, and it's like bioflavonoids and polyphenols and all of these plant compounds that are really, really good for us. And that is all, if you heat the honey, it goes away, right? And so keeping that in the product is one of the reasons I think we feel so good after we drink it.
Yeah, and I don't know why my head goes this direction, but it's kind of like THC and CBD. It's just like it's THC and CBD, but there's all these other things that are there that are just like that definitely play a role in all together. And when you do research on something, I mean, going through my master's program, it's like you have to look at this one thing. I'm like, that's never how it is. It's a combination of things that work together to provide, whatever the final product or whatever is out of that, but it's all those things in the honey play such a huge role as well, which is really interesting.
Yeah, so brewing wise, it's similar, but we start with our sugar, right, with the honey. We don't have to
Convert from starch to
correct.
a sugar.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, I wanted something that was approachable and to slow you down. So this stuff not carbonated is still spectacular, and people wish that I bottled it that way, but it's hard to listen to everybody. It's a challenge, but I mean, it's just so easy to drink. It's still easy enough to drink carbonated. So the carbonation, we do roughly the carbonation level of an average beer, and that provides that connection. So it's that similarity, but it also lets you really enjoy it instead of just like, wow, this is great, and just slamming it. The intoxication happens a bit quicker in that process, but
And there's some health benefits. Sounds a little bit healthier.
it's well.
We call it the better buzz
Yeah.
for a reason, because we've had now thousands of people try our product, and obviously we drink it on a consistent basis, and
Easy access.
we feel great. We feel so good the next day.
Yeah.
Well, we
And-
didn't touch on the hydration factor too.
Oh.
So, and that's right there with, I always kind of forget or neglect the gluten-free aspect, and I feel like the people are either full-blown celiac or it doesn't bother me, and everybody's in that range. And I feel, my humble opinion is it affects everybody. It's just whether or not you recognize that, right? So to some extent, some people are definitely more vulnerable or more affected by it, but the hydration factor of the honey is kind of mind-blowing. So I would say the major cause of a hangover is dehydration. So if you're drinking something that has built-in hydration pieces to it, it's kind of amazing. It's for me, going through and deep diving into different products and trying to take a combination of different, it's just the alcoholic beverages that provide that experience and combining them in the right way to provide something better. If I have a pint of beer and I'm thirsty immediately after, I'm kind of disappointed. I mean, I just had 16 ounces of liquid. Why am I now thirsty? So I'm trying to sort through that, and I don't want that. And so I think the most common response we get from people is, wow, this is refreshing. But the other thing is, like Ayla and I, besides the gluten-free aspect, and can't really do the breweries anymore, but going through a flight, and they're all very different compositions. They're all made very, very differently. And I know that certain beers I can have 6 or 8 of, and I feel pretty decent the next day. And I have some I can have a half of, and I'm wrecked the entire next day. And I don't like to roll the dice. I love the flight experience. I don't want to be like, wonder which one of these is
Yeah.
going to make me hurt tomorrow.
Right.
This is going to be fun, so trying to avoid that as well.
Well, and then the other piece is that the honey has, again, the raw honey has some minerals in it, which contributes to the hydration. But raw honey is actually a hangover cure. That
Ooh.
is, so the fact that we start with that is pretty helpful.
Yeah. As I get older, that sounds more appealing.
Yes.
Well, and mind-blowing too, definitely, right? And the more
Yes.
people we talk to, that they get younger and younger, they're like, I can't drink beer anymore. It's like, how you're 25, right? You're 27, like how,
Right.
I'm sure that there's plenty of people that drank as much as you are 10 years ago. So it's just, it's interesting kind of what the products have in them, and we kind of build ours to provide that better experience during and the next day.
And I didn't know that before coming here, so that's really interesting to hear.
It's a new product, but for a reason, not just like, hey, this is something new and different. We put a lot of thought into making it better as well.
So are there different restrictions or laws for brewing mead versus traditional beer?
Yes. Yeah, so we when people come in that have never been in before, we say, we're a winery technically brewed more like a beer, ends up like cider champagne. So it's just kind of
really
like,
confuse people that way.
and yeah, it was just like, we'll get into marketing, but it's the dumbest thing to confuse your patrons right when they walk in. But it's, but that's really what it is, and letting them kind of understand that, and then becoming less confusing as we move on from that. But that's kind of what we developed, and so we are a winery, right? And there's certain rules that go along with that, and that was another piece of what brought us into this. Is it wasn't until, I mean, I grew up in California, used to go into Napa and Sonoma. I spent a lot of time in Eastern Washington, which is second to Napa in distribution, amazing traditional wines out there, grape wines. And it wasn't until Wisconsin where I hear people go, yeah, we went to the winery and the guys tailgate in the parking lot and drink beer, and the women go to the winery. I'm like, you work all week. I mean, you have a few days of the weekend to hang out as a family. I guess if that's something you want, like, why don't we produce a product that has some cider-like things, champagne-like things, wine-likes, beer-likes, so there's something on the menu for everybody.
That's awesome.
I think I lost track on this one.
Well, including some non-alcoholic options. We make our own honey kombucha with an organic green tea and honey, as well as a soda.
Which
a
we're
seltzer.
expanding kind of that NA side of it. But back to the winery versus brewery. So in Wisconsin, it's interesting. Lobbyists kind of make the rules or help shape the rules of the state for hopefully good reasons. But wineries, one of the biggest things that stood out to us is you have to close at 9 p.m. in the state, and you can ship your products.
Oh.
Right. So breweries, and we cannot self-distribute.
Okay.
So breweries, you stay open till whatever bar closes. You can self-distribute, but you cannot ship your products. Right? So it's like, okay, well, they're both alcohol. I don't. If it's because of the alcohol content, beers can be 9, 12, whatever percent. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I'm just a humble brewer. I'm not a politician, so maybe that plays a role. But
Interesting.
the rules of a winery are definitely different. The hoops we jump through versus a brewery.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I didn't know all of that. It seems like the exact opposite.
And distilleries, on the distilled spirit plant, the DSPs, they have their own set of rules and hoops to jump through,
I'm sure it varies through states too.
Yeah.
It's all different.
which is super interesting when you want to ship to other states to get your product somewhere else. I'm sure you get to hear a little bit of these pieces. But it's
different, that's for sure.
there's a lot of fun hoops, to say the least.
And then, where do you get all your honey for your mead?
So my bees, like we talked about with the bees, the excess honey I will take from the bees. And so this year we just harvested last week.
Okay.
And all of that we package into 55-gallon drums, and that's how we use our honey in here in the brewing process. And so we get, the honey comes from my bees, and then we have a few local friends that provide us from bees. So everything is hyper-local within really 45 minutes of our location.
And raw. So it's and that's such a big thing, because I think something that people miss is, and I know we've touched on it, but I talk to so many people. They're like, "Oh yeah, no, I put honey in my coffee, so I get the benefits." I'm like, "Well, your coffee's 180, and you put the spoonful of honey, it's gonna zap. I don't know exactly how long it takes or what temperature it starts degrading, but you're definitely not getting the full benefits of the raw honey in that process. So any of the other providers that we work with are very careful. I'm like, I don't flash, heat it. I don't want it pasteurized. That's a whole kind of discussion of meaderies as well, like pasteurizing versus not. And honey is naturally antimicrobial and antibacterial. So, Ayla can talk a little bit about the interesting things of that, but just in brief, it works like a Neosporin but better. You can put it on a wound; it heals quicker. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. Don't
Don't start her on that. One.
that's a whole podcast in of itself. But yeah, I had a patient that had MRSA, like a skin infection.
Yeah.
And
This is back at New Bolton in Pennsylvania, right?
No, this was at Tufts.
Oh, okay, all right.
And then we couldn't get it to heal. Months and months and months of antibiotics and all this stuff, it wouldn't heal. And the owner was about ready to give up. And we're like, well, just let us try some raw honey. And we put it on the wound, and it healed up. And the horse went on to be a racehorse. And I'm like, woo!
Oh my gosh.
So
Wow.
that's
Kind of
pretty
amazing.
amazing.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I want to try it now.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, not asking for an injury, but
Raw honey. Make sure it's raw honey. That's an important piece to it.
Yeah. No, it's pretty incredible.
And then, where are all the hives located?
So I have right now about 30 hives, and they're all within 5 miles.
Okay.
Here are 3 different apiaries or bee yards, and then our friends are all again within 45 minutes.
But we have, I mean, it's kind of fun, serendipitous. Like, we had no idea when you asked about the winery, like how beer and wine is different, or brewery and a winery, or mead and beer. But we didn't know we had to be on A4 property in this area, an agricultural property. So we were looking at more commercial business areas to do this, and those fell through. And then the clouds opened, and the angels started singing, and this shine the light on this building, and
Like,
and
it's
then
way too big for us, and then we're like, oh, actually, we would have outgrown the previous space in 2 years.
I forgot that conversation, but yeah, wow. But yeah, we're on organic property. We're I love the experience of going out to a winery. I mean, just that drive to a wide open green space, and you sit out, and you're not listening to cars honk and people yell and whatnot. So we get that here, but Honey Creek is the creek that runs right behind us.
So I have bees on Honey Creek. I'm
So-
like, I wish I'd named it, but I didn't. But that's a pretty amazing name.
Yeah, just the spot that opened up is right on Honey Creek, right where one of our hives are, one of the 3. We
It
have
was
one.
meant to be.
It was meant to be.
Meant to
Right.
be.
She's here all week, folks. We have one halfway between here in Lake Geneva on 120.
5 miles south and 5 miles east.
And then the other one's on Honey Creek Road, right?
True.
Which is kind of cool.
So do you do the beekeeping for your hives?
Yes. Do all my own beekeeping, and that's actually my favorite part of this. Well, that and the building community. That part's super fun.
We'll put drinking as number 3.
Yeah.
It's
So
a
we're
close,
talking about
it's a close third.
the drinks, and we're talking about everything but the drinks. But
Beekeeping.
yeah.
And where did you learn how to be a beekeeper? Did you teach yourself, or how did you learn that process?
Can I jump in on this one, please? Can I start? All right. So we got to know who's now a really good friend, this gentleman, Dan O'Leary, and they run O'Leary Plumbing and Heating in town.
He's
And
retired now.
He's retired now. His family business, it's now his son runs it. But he was the first person I got honey from before Ayla was doing any beekeeping or anything. I'm just like, let's see if we can make this product, and let's see if we can make it well. And once we kind of got going and we were ready to have some bees, I went to Dan. I said, how many hives should we start out with, Dan? I said, I always recommend like 1 or 2. I'm like, Dan, that's great. Whatever, it's fine. I'm talking about Ayla here. How many hives should Ayla get? He's like 8 or 10. Yes. So
No, he said 25.
he said 25.
That's what I started with the first year. It was like jumping into the deep end, not knowing how to swim with bricks on your feet.
My gosh. Well, so 1 to 2 to 25. I mean, Dan had he spent enough time with Ayla at that point to know what she was capable of, and you did well. I mean,
Well,
you had
so-
to fail along the way, but
Well, sure. So on all my days off from working at the vet clinic, I would come out and work the bees with him. So before I ever got my own bees, I had my hands in a hive and was working with the bees with him, and that was an amazing experience. I always recommend that to people that are interested in bees, because it's very different starting. You start with a 2 or 3 pound package, which is like 10,000 bees, which sounds like a lot, but it's just a small amount of bees. And then as the hive grows, peak population, which we just have hit now in the year. I mean, these hives, you guys saw, they're like 70 to 80,000 bees in a hive, and it can be a little intimidating and a little overwhelming. So the fact that I had the chance to work with bees at the different stages in their development too.
and that's been kind of a family thing for the O'Learys. I don't know if Dan was the first one in the family to really
His
get
son
into
started
it.
it. His son was working with Fritz,
Got
which
it.
is a Fritz Fremont, who was a beekeeper
Yep.
locally, and then Dan, once his son
Went off
finished
to
high school.
Yeah, went off to college. Dan took it over.
Dan started.
That's
He's
right.
like, we have all these bees, so I guess I gotta take care of them. And then that's how he got into bees, and so he's been doing it for 30 years. And I had him on speed dial my first year, because I'd be like, Dan, this is what I'm seeing. What is going on? He's like, it's okay. Like, let's just see what the bees are gonna do. Like, he'd like talk me off the lid every
Aw.
time.
Infinite wisdom of age.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Yeah.
Well, and you said how your percentage of the success of your hives has increased every year.
Yeah, so Tim talked about failures, and that's, my first year I had lots of those. with 25 hives and not really knowing what I was doing. But that winter, I only had 25% of my bees survive the winter, which was really sad and disheartening. But it was the kick in the pants I needed to be like, I need to learn how to do this better and understand. You know, the joke is that you ask 10 beekeepers their opinion on something, you're going to get 11 different answers, right? And that's very true. And beekeeping is very local. So we're lucky that Dan's right here in East Troy. And so what I did the first winter didn't work, obviously. And so I'm going to all these conferences. I'm reading like crazy. I am digging deep into the science of beekeeping, as well as keeping in mind the art of beekeeping, because it's got to be balanced on both sides. Yeah, and realizing that if you distill all of it down, there's two main things that the bees are struggling with, and if you manage those two main things, which is the mites and their nutrition, that they should have a really good chance of surviving the winter. And so those are the things I started focusing on. So then the next year I got 75% of my bees through the winter, the next year 85% of the bees through the winter, and then last year 92% of the bees through the winter. And so I'm really proud of that, because I don't have 20 years of experience beekeeping, but maybe that's a good thing, because I'm not stuck in the way that I always did things. I'm constantly looking for new ways to get better and better and learn from the previous years. So I mean, I'm a depth person. I like to dive in deep and really understand something, and so that's what I've done with the bees, and I've just dedicated a lot of time and energy into understanding them.
That's incredible, 92%.
It's
Thank
insane
you.
because I don't know, I don't want to say like state or national average, but
40 to 50%.
40 to 50%, and a lot of people lose all their hives. So Ayla only losing 75%, which seems like a big number. That her first year of never doing it before and having 25 hives to do in her spare time, which is insane. Like that.
While we're opening the hive for the first year.
With like
Doing
two
something
little
I've never
kids
done.
and a new house and everything. Like everything was brand new, and still managed to do that and to recover the next year even better. So yeah, it's kind of insane.
Yeah, I haven't bought bees in 3 years now. And usually people are buying bees every spring.
Yeah.
So I'm able to make splits from my hives and, recoup my losses and have, more bees than I started with. So
Yeah, that was my next question, is because of your success, if you had to get more bees, or if you had enough to make it through the next year.
yeah, and so, there's a whole other podcast on that subject. But yeah, I've been fortunate. I haven't had to buy bees, and so when I do buy, I've bought some specific queens that have certain genetics that I'm trying to add into my
Okay.
apiaries or bee yards. I did that last summer, and that was great. But so I'm trying to add in some good characteristics for survival through the winter, for survival against the mites, and good gentle bees with good honey production. Trying to incorporate all those things. So it's been
Yeah.
fun.
It's a bit of planning.
Well, and as your business grows, do your hives have to grow too? Or would you have enough honey to produce?
So we currently don't have enough honey to produce, or enough bees to produce enough honey for everything that we're making. But as we grow, that would.
I want to back up a step on that one too. So we don't do the beekeeping for the honey,
Oh, okay.
technically. I mean, we do it because we are, very passionate about learning and the experience, and we care enough a lot about, from start to finish, how do we create this? I mean, it's like the last time you talked to a beer. Last time you talked to a brewer and said, "Hey, do you grow your own wheat?"
Yeah.
I just thought of that right now. Sorry, but we want to be a part of that whole process, and we want to experience that and see everything that goes into it. And Ayla, when I say we don't do it for the honey, your commercial beekeeper leaves a lot less honey in the hives that does it for the honey. We care more about the bees and the interest and the science behind it and how to keep improving, which probably helps with the recovery rate, or the how many bees that we are able to maintain over wintering.
Yeah, well, and the commercial beekeepers, I mean, they have a different protocol for how they manage their bees, because they're shipping them around.
They're
for
overwintered
their-
and they're
for
going to Florida or
pollination,
California
right,
or wherever.
And for the pollination, different events. So it's really not fair to compare the way that we do
True.
beekeeping with them.
True, but ours is more on the experience, to be able to educate,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you appreciate that. But yeah, it's just why should you not be afraid of bees? What role do they play? How does it make a better product?
Well, and then they're the pollination services for our neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
And they're also, I feel like they're the canary in the mine, telling us if they start getting really sick, there's something in our environment that's not good for us, right?
That's
And
true.
so we are lucky. We're here on organic land that we don't spray any pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and things are flourishing. The bees are flourishing. In other places where they have those struggles, it's more challenging for the bees to keep going.
We'll branch off into the 8 other podcasts
Yeah.
next time. We're very deep people. I'm sorry.
So you have the 55-gallon drum of honey. How much honey does it take to make like one batch of mead?
So it varies. I want to say anywhere between like 40 and 80 pounds per barrel.
Okay.
Give or take.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on the style we use.
Okay.
Somewhere in that ballpark. We go through. What did we say? I should have given you, because that would have been a good answer for you too. Is how much honey we go through a year. And what did we say we went through? Because a drum of honey is about 700 or 800 pounds. It's 12 pounds
So what
per
percent,
gallon.
like the bees that you use, what percent would you say, I guess, is,
Our honey?
yeah, like the honey that you use? 'Cause,
We're sitting at probably still roughly around 10%, I would say.
Okay.
10 or 15 is what we like to say, but we keep growing, and I don't constantly go back and reevaluate that number. But I would say it's a safe number to go with, like 10.
okay.
And we also noticed last year in our honey, I had my assistant brewer going through. It's like, these taste really minty. So we're trying to figure out how, if we need to use Ayla's honey on specialty products instead of our distributed products,
Okay.
because it's like, this $14.92 has a real minty flavor to it this year, and they really pull out. I mean, depending on where the bees are, the flavor changes. It's kind of fun.
When we were extracting one of the boxes, we're sampling honey as we're extracting, and one of them, I was like, "You guys, come here. This tastes like coconut." And so we're like tasting the honey. We're like, everyone's like, "It does taste like coconut." We're trying to figure out, rack our brains, like, what plant is providing like coconut flavored nectar?
It's the organic coconut bushes right out back.
Oh my
It was
god.
insane. And so yeah, it's funny. Each location is
Yeah.
getting different nectar sources.
They have like a 5-mile radius at the furthest for the bees,
That they
and
fly, yep.
that they fly, but they'll stop at the best location closest to the hive.
I never even thought about that.
They got like a wiggle waggle dance. It's all kinds of cool stuff.
So the next question you guys might have different answers for.
Ooh, okay.
What would you
She's wrong.
say?
No.
What would you say has been more challenging, the beekeeping or the mead making?
We were talking about this a little bit before you guys showed up. Wondering if that was going to come up. I think that beekeeping has been kind of there's
I'm gonna agree with you on that.
There's-
I mean, it's a little bit unexpected to agree with you, but I'm gonna agree with you on that one.
there's a lot of science in both, and this is a product that we really kind of built from scratch. I mean, it's something that again, the meads being the longest in existence, but how we layered it and built it for a reason, and how we developed it has been an exciting, fun process. And the fact that we did it 18 months from concept to grand opening was a ride, to say the least, on scaling and growing.
He mentioned he was in his master's program, so has a master's in mechanical engineering with a focus on heat transfer and fluid flow. So everything built in here he created.
Oh my
So
gosh.
not, in addition to creating the mead process, like he created every process inside here.
Wow.
Like mad scientist style.
It was fun, but say something else. But for Ayla, it's like an ongoing science project. Like, there's so much depth, and there's so many other. So I can isolate my system, right? She cannot. So there's constantly different pesticides and different things being grown and different things happening in the surrounding area with a 5-mile radius of what the bees have access to or what's affecting them that we have to work with. And you have a whole lot more to think about
And
on
the
what.
weather changes, so as we've had some, climate changes, things are blooming at sort of off periods, or they're blooming earlier, and the bees haven't built up enough population to really take advantage of that nectar flow.
Or the honeycomb,
And
for where
so
to put it, or
they
whatever.
miss out on, like some of the early nectar flows, and so the bees adapting to that as well is just really fascinating.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. It's
But
kind
you
of
gotta
amazing.
keep you on your toes, because every year's different, so.
Well, and with those challenges comes great success. So what would you say has been the most successful moment here at the Hive?
That's a tough one because there are so many moments that pop into my head. As Tim mentioned, having landed in this space, on this land, in this community where people just show up to help, and has been amazing. And one of my favorite memories when we're days away from opening, and I'm in a frenetic frenzy of trying to get everything done and cleaned up. I mean, we still don't even have like doors where we need doors. There's like major stuff that needs to get done, and we're having our opening in like 2 days.
No, we're having an opening in like 2 hours. And they're building doors.
Yeah, and so
Jeez.
Tim, people knock on the door, and Tim opens the door, and he puts his hospitality hat on. He's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" He's all laid back, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, we have so much to do. But why are you hosting like this? It's driving me crazy." Well, then turns out, they start chatting, and they're like, "Oh, looks like you need some help around here."
Aw.
And we're like, "Yeah, we do. Like, what skills do you have?" And they're like, "Well, I can do some carpentry." We're like, "Great, build this barn door for us. Here's the wood. We just haven't had time to build it." And like a lot of stuff like that happened just being in this space, and this community has just welcomed us with open arms, and has continued to support us. And for a little small town with 4,500 people, it's kind of amazing that they've been like, "Yeah, we love Session Mead now too," and it's not like a big metropolitan area.
Yeah.
So we've been really blessed by that.
All the layers, and just building on that is the people, building a space that connects people. Our whole, from the get-go, a lot of the pieces that went into this was, English style pub, no TVs, no Wi-Fi. You have the community drinking establishment where it's kids and families and everybody's together, plays a board game, has a pint, blah blah blah. Trying to replicate some of that, and we have people come in, they're like, "Oh, you don't have Wi-Fi? Good luck staying open." And we have some of the most interesting, exciting things for me to hear when I come in here is a few girls in their mid-20s that, and somebody talks to me on the way out and says, "I've never talked to Sally." She's always Snapchatting the entire time we're hanging out, and I actually had a real conversation with her.
Aww.
So providing that space with that experience and having it layered of like, the vibe is here, the product is here, the community building is here. That when people come in, it's like, I've just met this person over here. We both, turns out, lived in East Troy for 20 years, and we've never met. Why is that? A space where different political beliefs can get together and talk about things, and it's okay. It's on the table, and it works out fine. So and the product plays a big role in that. That's something that people you don't have bar fights. People are all in the same buzz, and it's funny, these are all things we thought about as we were developing the product. But when you think about different alcohols, people talk about tequila and whiskey and their effects. Everything else is like just alcohol. But really, they're all very different. The experience, how you feel during, how you feel after, and we feel strongly, we're slightly biased, but that we rank highly in that, in that range of how you feel.
The buzz is energizing and uplifting, and it makes, it makes people excited to have conversation rather than be like, "Okay, I need a nap now."
Yeah.
You're not tired. We pitch it as the clarity maintained, not a stumbly, mumbly, tired fool feeling, energizing, and I think the hydration plays a huge role in that too. But having those things to support a community building spot and to see that happening in real time is kind of amazing.
So what's next for the Hive? Any future plans or anything?
So many.
The 50. We went the 30,000 foot view. We just went up a little bit higher. We couldn't see enough from there. We love East Troy. We want this to be our our headquarters, our hub. But we definitely want to have other locations as well. But I can see us scaling this space out, doubling the size roughly. We've learned a lot. I never brewed before.
Okay.
And then we saw this opportunity. I saw this potential for us to do something together, and that we could make a business out of. So there's a lot of learning from the get-go. So we've learned a lot, to say the least. And so be able to rebuild our brewing space, have quite a bit more capacity to expand the distribution, and to have a few other brick and mortars. But I'd love to see a restaurant in here, and we have some, I want to say, for the food world, some very unique ideas on how we want to do that. At that 50,000, branching into another person you should talk to, but who recently acquired the rest of the property here at Michael Fields. was the owner of Soul Boxer. He does RTDs, ready to drink cocktails, and he has some great ideas that he wants to work with us on. But glamping, I mean, can you imagine you're going to, you need a break out of Milwaukee and you want access to something close to the Door County, and you have a glamping spot that you have access to a winery and live music and a spa, which is now open over there, and you get your massage and music and
That
food.
sounds really
and
nice.
come back. Same, no TV, no Wi-Fi, the same kind of the baseline foundational piece.
Just experience the like.
Yeah, just to relax. You still have access to good food and drinks while you're relaxing.
That's
So
exciting.
that's what we're going to be building, which we're very, very pumped about.
Great.
Well, once it's built, we will be here. We'll be here until then. This is exciting. But is there anything that we forgot to mention that you wanted to add?
Boy, I feel badly that we answered each question a little bit longer than maybe you were hoping for.
Oh, you're good.
I guess the only thing we didn't really talk about is our dog-friendly part.
Oh.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. It's and a piece of that space, kind of backing into that English style pub. Ask how I envision with the very few English style pubs I've been to, but what I'd like to think is the kid and dog friendly aspect, and it's something that also plays a big role in that vibe where people they just relax. You're at your neighborhood spot, everybody's fine. This is not a testosterone heavy spot. Everyone just relax and hang out. You don't have to worry about fighting or getting hit on constantly. You can just chill and connect.
You can bring your whole family, your dog, your
Oh, man.
kids, everything.
Well,
We-
like 3 generations, with our NA options too. I mean, everyone gets a drink in fancy glass,
Yeah.
right? And so people can come in and,
Supporting the same cause, all being honey based.
yeah, exactly, and all feel really good and be hanging out together and playing games and, yeah, we didn't see anything like this and we're like, we need to create this.
Oh,
Yes.
indoor stage. We have Grandpa holding, the just freshly born little baby, and then turns out he also plays in a band. So he asked the band if he can come sing a few songs, and he hands the baby over, and gets on stage and starts singing. It's like, what? I couldn't have even imagined this. How is this all happening? But
This
super
really
fun.
is the perfect place for a family night.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people come here for the first time on, a date night, and they're like, we can bring our kids. Oh, I'm bringing them next time, and we have a lot of outdoor space that is set up, sandbox and that kind of thing, just so that everyone can hang out outside too, because we all need a few more doses of nature in our days
Yes.
too.
Yeah, kind of. I think a great thing to leave you guys with is the space to disconnect from your electronics and connect back in with your community. And if there's one thing I think that would define what we're attempting to do, would be just that.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for giving us this experience with the bees,
Yeah, thank you.
with your space. Thank you for interviewing with us and talking about your products.
We've reached the end of this episode, but there's plenty more to keep you busy. For online source materials and proven case studies delivered right to your inbox, sign up for our mailing list by visiting marketthebrew.com. We'll see you next time on Market the Brew.